President. What can you tell us about the CIA drone flights over Mexico? Is this the next step in the war against the cartels?
Well, we're going to see.
Should they have authority to take lethal action?
Mexico's allowed a tremendous number of people to go through their country into ours, and even people coming from Mexico, and illegals, totally illegal. They've allowed people to empty jails into Mexico and then let them come through with this totally ridiculous open border policy of the Biden administration. But I think Mexico is largely run by the cartels, and that's a sad thing to say. And if they wanted help with that, we'd give them help.
President Trump offering to help Mexico combat the drug cartels. His administration designating Sinaloa, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and other gangs as terrorist organizations. The border crackdown showing results. Only 29,000 encounters recorded last month. That is the lowest number seen at the southern border since May of 2020. Texas Department of Public Safety announcing only 218 encounters happened across the state on Monday. On the same day last year, 1,825 people crossed. That was logged in. All of this as the Senate moves to send the Trump administration money for immigration. The upper chamber holding a vote this week on a $345 billion budget resolution, including more money for the border, defense spending, and the Coast Guard. Joining me now is Oklahoma Senator and member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, James Lankford. Senator, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, good to see you again. Good morning.
So where are you on this budget resolution? Of course, the House has its own view of things and has a big bill, which includes the tax extensions as well.
Yeah, great. Let's keep moving on it. The Senate has one option to be able to say, let's work on the first things first on it. We've got a lot of work to still do on the tax portion of it. So our first priority is to say, what are we doing on border security? What are we doing on national defense? How are we actually protecting and doing the things that President Trump said he was going to do? So let's get those things as quick as we can while we're still working on the tax issues. We don't have a problem between the House and the Senate at this point. We both want to be able to accomplish the same thing. We're just trying to be able to figure out the best route to be able to get there right now.
So do you expect the bill to get to the president's desk by the March 14th deadline?
So there's a whole bunch of deadlines out here. This is part of the challenge that we have, Maria. We have the March 14th deadline is really the funding for the full year. That's the 12 bills that, quite frankly, should have been done last year, but Chuck Schumer never brought those bills to the floor of the Senate, so everything got punted into this year on it. So that's a separate issue. What we're trying to work on is just a standalone, just the border security portion, just some of the defense portion, and try to get at least those done. But we still have 3.5 weeks before the next piece has to be done still.
Because, you know, Newt Gingrich was saying that if you don't address the tax extensions by, you know, June, you're going to have a problem in terms of getting that done. Do you foresee an issue in terms of extending the tax cuts?
No, we should be able to get them done, and we should be able to get them done by the summer. There's a lot of work that started actually last year on the tax aspects of this. So all the tax pieces, whether it be corporate, whether it be small business, whether it be individuals, international tax, we've worked on those quite a bit, again, starting last year. So we're ready to move on several issues. It's just the final negotiations in the Senate and then negotiating with the House to be able to get it done.
And on the border, how do you deal with the drug cartels if they're, in fact, running Mexico, as President Trump just suggested?
Yeah, the northern states of Mexico have the same State Department designation as Syria and as Yemen and Iran. They're violent places that are not safe for any American to go in those northern states that are right along our border, from California all the way to Texas on it. They've been run by cartels for a long time. That is an area that the Mexican federales do not go in the same level as they go in other areas. And that's the area that President Trump is pointing out and saying they've lost control of their northern border, which is affecting our southern border. So if Mexico doesn't get a handle on their northern border, we're going to continue to be able to fight our southern border. And what President Trump has offered is, hey, we'll help you in any way you can, because helping them on their northern border helps us on ours.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, this is dangerous, knowing that, you know, it's that the cartels are in charge of Mexico.
It is, actually. That northern part of Mexico, the Sinaloa cartel, which President Trump has designated a terrorist organization, they've been in a leadership fight where we're talking They have drones attacking each other. They have military-style weapons. They're dropping aerial bombs on each other. I mean, it is a full-scale war among the Sinaloa cartel that they're actually fighting for leadership with each other with very heavy, very large weapons that are military-style weapons on it.
Unbelievable. All right, let's talk DOGE for a moment. Then Obama-appointed federal judge rejecting a Democrat-led effort to block DOGE's access to government data or from firing federal employees. DOGE has already identified a savings of a total of $55 billion so far. And Elon Musk has floated the idea of a DOGE dividend to President Trump, which would give taxpayers a $5,000 check funded by DOGE's savings. Senator, I know you've released a DOGE playbook detailing major federal spending fumbles. Tell us about that and your reaction to DOGE.
Yeah, pleased to be able to see more folks in the party. This is an area I've worked on for 10 years to be able to focus on areas of government inefficiency, government waste. We put out the federal fumble book every year to be able to identify some of the areas that DOGE has already identified in the meeting with President Trump. In this conversation that Elon Musk had, that conversation actually detailed some of the things we've had in federal fumbles for years on it. So very pleased to be able to have more help in the kitchen at this point, trying to be able to get stuff done. There's obviously waste on this, and I think the American people don't want to just see a check coming back to the American people. They want to see the debt and the deficit come down. If you want to fight for inflation long term, we've got to be able to fight our deficit spending. That's a key aspect that we need to be able to drill down on. And until we're able to get rid of $2 trillion in overspending, let's not get eager to be able to send more money out. Let's actually deal with what we can on this. And I'm very pleased Elon Musk has given his time as a White House staff member to be able to jump in and to be able to help President Trump in this way.
Yeah, I mean, this cost cutting and identifying waste has been obviously incredibly successful, but you still have to come up with offsets, right, to ensure that you've got the money for defense and for the border and everything else in President Trump's agenda. Have you identified them?
We have. There's large areas that we've gone through to be able to identify. Now, I have to tell you, you know as well, you track the budget for a long time. You're not going to get it balanced in a single year. But we can make a huge jump on this. But areas of what's called improper payments, whether that be in Medicaid, Medicare, where there's over $100 billion in improper payments, where literally they can't track it. There's about $10 billion in improper payments on SNAP. People don't have an argument with food stamps and SNAP benefits getting to those folks that need it. They do have a problem when $10 billion is going out, and they don't know if they're getting to someone that qualifies or not. So there are some big areas that we can begin to address to make some of that forward progress. And that, obviously, President Trump is laying off all the folks that are probationary employees. That's an enormous number on the federal workforce. So there's a lot that's happening trying to make progress quickly, but we're then going to have to be able to chip away through legislative action, and we're going to bring that over the next several months.
So it sounds like even the quote-unquote mandatory spending has some areas to clean up and do away with waste. I mean, 3 major trust funds are facing looming insolvency: Social Security retirement in 2033, Medicare hospital insurance in 2036, and highways in 2028, with 76% of the spending going to mandatory programs. Have you come to the conclusion that you're going to have to go there?
We are. We have to be able to go there. It doesn't mean reducing benefits, but it does mean going after the improper payments and the fraud areas. It does mean saying if we've got inefficiency, if we have too many employees in one area, why do we have that? And if we have the wrong people in the wrong place, let's move them to the right place on that to make sure that we can make all this work. But yes, there's a lot that can be done and can be done very quickly. And the president's already taken this on. Obviously, we're a month into his presidency at this point, and we've seen tremendous turn in the spending. And quite frankly, the American people keep coming back over and over again and say, please reduce the government waste. I don't mind my tax dollars going to national defense and to education and to transportation. I don't want to go into waste.
What about this new executive order where the president is basically saying, look, these independent agencies are not going to be so independent, and they're going to be subject to the same White House control as other government departments? You've got to check with the White House before putting any new rules in place for the FDIC, the OCC. Your thoughts?
So I just about stood in a chair and started cheering when that came out yesterday. This is an area I've worked on for years. I've had independent agencies come before me and say, independent agencies aren't independent of oversight. They have for years said, we're independent, we can do what we want. They're not a fourth branch of government that's out there doing whatever they want. We have checks and balances. We have executive, legislative, judicial branches. that's the grouping, and they fall under the executive branch. They have a responsibility that if they're going to release a new regulation, especially a major regulation that's
Right.
going to affect our economy, that has to be checked by the executive branch. It has to go through that system. So they're not independent of everyone else. They're not outside of the norm on this. They should face accountability. This is not a matter of President Trump showing up at their desk and telling them what to do every day.
Yep.
But if they're putting out a major regulation, it should be checked.
Senator, I'm not sure if you saw my last interview with Bill Browder, but he feels that, Russia is the enemy here, not Ukraine. And President Trump says he will probably meet with Russia's Vladimir Putin before the end of the month following the talks between U.S. and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia. Last week, the president called on Russia and China to cut defense spending and meet for denuclearization talks. Your reaction?
Yeah, glad to have the president actually engaging. That's a good thing to be able to have. We literally have nuclear weapons pointed at each other. So it's a good thing for us to be able to sit down, make sure we're bringing the temperature down. But it's absolutely clear who's the friend and foe in this. Ukraine is the friend. Russia is getting their weapons from Iran, from North Korea, and support from China. That's not hard to be able to see what that alliance looks like. So we should make it clear who's friend and foe here, but it's not an issue sitting down with a foe and saying, let's turn down the volume.
Of course. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
You bet.
James Lankford joining us. Quick break and then rebuilding California.